The train station was always busy in the evening. People hurried in and out, pulling heavy bags, waving tickets, and calling out to friends. Milan sat on a wooden bench near the old clock tower, waiting for his train that was already running late. He was used to the noise of the station, the rolling wheels of luggage, the echo of voices, and the whistle of trains that came and went. But on this day, something different caught his eye. A girl stood near the platform sign, looking confused. She wore a long coat that didn't fit the season, and her shoes looked thin, as if they were made for walking on smooth ground, not rough streets. She held a small bag in one hand, but she didn't move toward the ticket counter or the waiting line. Instead, she looked around with wide eyes, as though she had never been in a station before. Milan watched her for a while. Many strangers passed through the station every day, but this girl seemed out of place in a way he couldn't explain. Her face was calm, almost too calm, as if the noise around her didn't reach her ears. After some time, the girl noticed Milan watching. She walked closer and asked in a soft, uncertain voice, "Train, where is it going?" Her words were simple, but her accent was strange. Milan could tell she wasn't used to speaking the language. "Which train?" Milan asked politely. "There are many. Do you have a ticket?" The girl shook her head slowly. She looked at the large board where the times were written, but her eyes seemed to follow the letters without understanding them. Milan pointed to the board. "This shows the trains and where they go. Do you want to go to another city?" The girl's brow furrowed. She didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "I wait for, right one. Not yet come." Her words puzzled him. Most travelers knew exactly where they were going, but this girl didn't. She didn't even seem sure what a ticket was for. "You'll miss your train if you don't know where it's going," Milan said kindly. The girl tilted her head, studying him carefully. "You help me?" she asked, almost like a child asking for guidance. Milan wasn't sure why, but he nodded. "All right. Tell me the place you need to go." The girl was silent. Then she said softly, "Not place. Time." Milan blinked. He thought he misheard. "Time." She gave a small nod but said nothing more. Before Milan could ask further, the loudspeaker called out the arrival of another train. People rushed forward, and the girl stepped back, as if startled by the sudden movement. She watched the train arrive with a strange expression, not excitement, not fear, something else, something like wonder. The train doors opened, people went in and out, but the girl didn't move. She only whispered to herself, "Not mine." Milan tried to understand her. Maybe she was a traveler from far away, someone who didn't know how train stations worked. But something deeper in him felt that wasn't the case. Her eyes, the way she looked at the tracks, the way she studied the crowd, it was all too unusual. When the train left, the platform grew quiet again. The girl turned back to Milan. "You wait also?" "Yes," Milan said. "My train is late." She sat down on the bench beside him, carefully folding her coat around her. She sat very straight, her eyes always moving, as if recording everything. "Do you come here often?" she asked. "Every day," Milan replied. "I work in the city, then I take the train home." She nodded, as though this information was very important. Then she asked, "Why people wait in line? Why they need paper to walk inside train?" Milan smiled. "The paper is the ticket. You buy it to travel. Without it, you can't get on." She repeated the word slowly. Ticket, she said it as if it was new to her. Milan thought it was strange. Who in the world didn't know what a ticket was? But he didn't want to embarrass her, so he only explained simply. It shows you have paid for the journey. That's all. The girl gave a small smile. Humans, no, people, always need proof. Milan frowned. Humans. What else would we be? The girl quickly looked away, as though she had said something she shouldn't. Nothing. Forget. The whistle of another train echoed across the platform. The girl stood again, her eyes fixed on the sky above the tracks. For a moment, Milan thought he saw a reflection in her eyes, like stars shimmering, though it was still evening and no stars could be seen yet. When she turned back, she said softly, "I come again tomorrow. Maybe train comes then." Before Milan could ask what she meant, she walked away into the crowd. Her thin coat fluttered behind her like a shadow, and soon she was gone. Milan sat in silence, thinking about her words. She had not asked about cities, tickets, or times like a normal traveler. She had asked about time itself. And when she looked at the trains, it was not the machines she saw, it was something beyond them. For the first time, the busy train station felt like more than a place of travel. It felt like the edge of something bigger, something waiting to be revealed. And Milan knew he would be there tomorrow, waiting. The next evening, Milan returned to the train station earlier than usual. His workday had ended the same way it always did, with papers to file and long walks through crowded streets. But his mind wasn't on work. He thought only about the girl from yesterday, the one who asked strange questions and spoke as though she had never traveled before. The station was alive again with its usual sounds, wheels clattering, the rumble of trains, and people's voices mixing together like waves. Milan scanned the crowd, not knowing if she would appear. For a moment, he thought he might never see her again. Then he spotted her. The girl stood by the same platform sign, just like the day before. She wore the same coat, buttoned up neatly, and held the same small bag. Her eyes moved across the crowd with quiet attention, as if she was studying every single person. When she saw Milan, her face lit up in a small smile. She walked toward him. "You came back," she said softly. Milan nodded. "So did you." She sat on the bench beside him. For a while, they both watched the people passing by. Then she asked, "What is your name?" "Milan," he replied. "And yours?" She hesitated, then said, "Rena." The name sounded simple, but there was something unusual about the way she said it, as if she was not used to giving names. Rena looked at the big clock above the station. "Time moves fast here," she murmured. Milan raised his eyebrows. "Time moves the same everywhere." She shook her head. "Not everywhere." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Instead of answering, she turned to him with curious eyes. "Why do people here wait for trains? Why not walk, or use something faster?" "Because trains carry us far," Milan explained. "Walking takes too long. Trains connect cities." Rena tilted her head. "But they move on paths already made. They cannot choose their way." "That's true," Milan said with a smile. "But that's the point. The path is safe." She thought about this, repeating the word, safe. Then she whispered, "Not all paths are safe." Milan was puzzled again. Every word she spoke felt like it carried another meaning, one he couldn't fully understand. As the sun lowered outside, the station lights flickered on. Rena stood up suddenly and walked to the edge of the platform, staring at the darkening sky above the rails. Milan followed her, worried she might step too close. "What are you looking at?" he asked. She lifted her hand, pointing to the horizon. "Listen." Milan listened, but he heard only the hum of the waiting train engine. "I don't hear anything." Rena shook her head. "Not with ears. With here." She placed her hand gently over her chest. "Signals. Signals." Milan repeated. "Yes," she said, her eyes fixed on the sky. "When the air moves in lines, I hear them. They come and go. The station is a meeting point." Milan stared at her. "You speak like this place is more than just a station." Rena turned to him, her expression calm but serious. "It is. People built it here, but they did not know why. Under this ground, old paths cross. Lines of power. My people can feel them." Milan's heart beat faster. Her words made no sense, yet something in the way she spoke made him believe she wasn't lying. "Your people?" he asked slowly. "Where are they?" She looked down, then whispered, "Far too far for you to see." Milan was quiet for a long time. The station around them grew louder as another train rolled in, its brakes screeching, passengers rushing. But in that noise, Milan felt a stillness between himself and Rena, as if they were standing apart from the world. Finally, he asked, "Why tell me this?" Rena's eyes softened. "Because you watch. You see me. Others walk past, but you stop." Milan didn't know what to say. He had only been curious, yet she spoke as though that simple curiosity meant something important. The train doors opened, passengers streamed out, but Rena didn't move. She only whispered again, "Not mine." Milan tried to smile. "You'll keep waiting until the right one comes." "Yes," Rena replied. Then, after a pause, she added, "And when it comes, I will know." The train departed, leaving the platform almost empty. Rena sat back down, pulling her coat tight. "Be careful, Milan," she said quietly. "When you see too much, others may see you too." "What do you mean?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small object from her pocket. It looked like a silver coin, smooth and shining in the station lights. She held it in her palm for a moment, then closed her hand around it again. "You will understand later," she said softly. The sound of another whistle filled the air. Rena stood, ready to leave. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "I will be here." And then, just like yesterday, she disappeared into the moving crowd, her coat brushing past shoulders until Milan could no longer see her. Milan sat alone on the bench, staring at the empty platform. Her words echoed in his mind: signals, meeting point, my people. He looked at the clock tower, its hands ticking forward. For the first time in his life, he felt that the train station wasn't just about arrivals and departures. It was something bigger. Something was waiting. And tomorrow, he would be waiting too. The third evening came, and Milan found himself walking to the train station even faster than before. His legs carried him without pause, as if they already knew where he had to be. Work, streets, and noise all blurred into the background. Only one thought stayed in his mind: would Rena be there again? When he reached the platform, he looked around quickly. For a moment, he did not see her, and a small fear rose in him. Perhaps she had left, perhaps she would never return. But then, near the clock tower, he saw her standing quietly, as though she had been waiting for him all along. Rena's eyes met his, and she smiled faintly. "You came," she said. "Of course," Milan replied. "You said you'd be here." She nodded, walking beside him to the same wooden bench they had shared before. The crowd moved around them, but once again it felt as though the noise of the world didn't touch the space they sat in. For a while, they spoke about ordinary things. Milan told her about his long day at work, about the tired faces of people rushing through the city. Rena listened with quiet interest, asking small questions. But Milan could feel she was holding something back. Finally, he said, "Rena, yesterday you said this place is a meeting point. You spoke of your people. I need to know what you mean." Rena looked at him for a long moment, her eyes shining in the station lights. Then she whispered, "You already know. You only do not accept it yet." Milan frowned. "Know what?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice as if afraid others might hear. "I am not from here." Milan blinked, unsure of what she meant. "Not from this city." She shook her head. "Not from this world." Her words struck him like a sudden sound in the dark. He tried to laugh, but it caught in his throat. "That's impossible." Rena's face remained calm. "Is it? You already saw how I do not understand your simple things. Tickets, lines, trains. I ask because I do not live in this way. My world does not need these things." Milan stared at her, his mind searching for an answer. Maybe she was playing a trick, maybe she was imagining things. But the steady truth in her eyes told him otherwise. "Why are you here?" he asked softly. "To see if humans are ready," she replied. "My people watch from far. We look for places where lines of power cross. This station is one. It hides a doorway, but not for trains of metal. For something greater." Milan's mouth felt dry. "Doorway? To where?" "To paths beyond the sky," Rena said. "Paths of light, not rails. They appear for moments, and then they are gone. I wait here because this is one of those paths. If it opens, I must be ready." The sound of another train arriving filled the air. People pushed past, climbing aboard, shouting, laughing, complaining. To them, it was only another evening journey. But to Milan, it suddenly felt as though the entire world had shifted. He looked at Rena. "And me? Why tell me this?" Rena's gaze softened. "Because I trust you. You see me as I am, not just as a stranger. And now you carry my secret." Milan sat back, breathing slowly. Part of him wanted to run away, to forget all of this. But another part of him, stronger, louder, felt drawn in. "What happens if others find out?" he asked. Her eyes grew serious. "Then I am in danger. And maybe you too. My people do not wish to be known yet. They test the world from shadows. But shadows also have hunters. If they see me, they will try to stop me." Milan's chest tightened. He thought of the silver coin-like object she had shown the day before. "That thing you had, it opens the doorway." Rena nodded slowly. "It helps me feel when the path is near. Without it, I am blind here." A long silence followed. The crowd thinned as trains left, and the platform grew quiet. Above them, the night sky spread wide, but the stars were faint through the city lights. Milan finally said, "If what you say is true, then you should not be here. It's dangerous." Rena gave a small smile. I am here because it is dangerous. That is why the test matters. If humans can face what is unknown, then they are ready. Her words sank into him like a stone falling into deep water. He thought of his own life routine, simple, filled with the safe rhythm of work and travel. And here beside him sat someone who spoke of stars, doorways, and choices greater than he had ever imagined. The loudspeaker called out another train. But neither of them moved. Milan looked at her with steady eyes. Then what do you want from me? Rena's voice was soft but sure. I want you to decide. When the doorway comes, will you stand with me, or will you turn away? That is the question my people watch for. That is the answer only humans can give. Her words hung in the air like a challenge, like a promise. Milan felt his heart beating faster, not from fear, but from something else, something close to wonder. The night train roared past, its lights flashing across their faces. And in that brief glow, Milan saw it clearly, Rena was not lying. She was different. She was not from here. And his life would never be the same again. The next evening, Milan walked to the station with a restless mind. All day at work, he had been distracted, his thoughts circling around Rena's words. She was not from this world. She was waiting for a doorway hidden in the train station. She had asked him to decide whether he would stand with her when the time came. It sounded impossible, like a story told by children. Yet he had seen the truth in her eyes. She wasn't pretending. When he reached the platform, Rena was already there. She stood near the rail, her coat drawn close against the wind, her eyes fixed on the horizon as though waiting for something only she could sense. You came, she said when she noticed him. I couldn't stay away, Milan admitted. I need to understand more. Rena gave a small nod and sat with him on the bench. For a moment, they both watched as a train pulled in, its doors opening wide for tired passengers. But Rena didn't look at the train, her gaze was fixed on the ground, the air, the invisible lines crossing through the station. At last, she reached into her pocket and drew out the small silver coin again. She opened her palm, letting it rest there, shining softly under the station lights. This, she whispered, is not money. It is a key. Milan leaned closer. A key to what? To the path, Rena replied. It listens for the signal. When the doorway appears, it glows. It can open the way, but only for a moment. She held it out so he could see. The surface of the coin seemed alive, moving with faint ripples like water though it was solid. Milan stared at it in silence. Something deep inside him wanted to touch it, to feel its strange energy. But he held himself back. And if you open this path? He asked. Then I step beyond, Rena said calmly. I return to my people, and they will know what I learned here. Milan's chest tightened. And if I stepped with you? Her eyes met his, steady and searching. Then you would leave everything behind. Your world, your home, your ordinary life. You would see what no human has seen. But you could never be the same again. Her words struck him like thunder. Part of him longed to say yes at once, to throw away the dull rhythm of his days for something greater. But another part whispered of danger, unknown skies, strange beings, a life with no way back. You tempt me, Milan said quietly. Rena tilted her head. I do not tempt. I only show the door. The choice is yours. A long silence stretched between them. The platform grew busy again with travelers, footsteps echoing, wheels clattering over the floor. Yet for Milan, the crowd seemed far away. His mind was caught on Rena's words. He thought of his small home, the streets he walked every day, the tired work that filled his hours. He thought of his family who expected him to live an ordinary life. Could he leave it all? Could he step into something that might never let him return? And then he thought of the stars, of the unknown beyond the sky, of the strange light he had seen in Rena's eyes. You said your people want to know if humans are ready, Milan said slowly. Ready for what? Ready to choose, Rena answered. Many worlds we watch, but few dare to step beyond what is safe. Humans are different. You are curious. Brave. That is why I came. Milan's heart beat faster. The silver key in her hand shimmered faintly, as if it felt his rising thoughts. What if I say yes now? He asked. Rena closed her hand around the coin. Then you must wait. The doorway is not open yet. But when it comes, there will be no time to decide. You must already know your answer. Milan swallowed hard. He could almost feel the weight of that choice pressing on him. Just then, the loudspeaker called out another train. People hurried past, their arms full of bags, their voices loud. None of them noticed the quiet girl with the shining coin, or the young man beside her who wrestled with the greatest decision of his life. Rena leaned closer. Her voice was soft, but it carried clearly into his heart. Milan, when the light train comes, it will not wait. If you wish to step with me, you must step without fear. That is the temptation. That is the test. Milan met her eyes. They were not the eyes of someone tricking him. They were eyes full of calm truth, but also a strange sadness as though she knew he might turn away. The whistle of the train echoed through the station, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Rena rose to leave. Think well, she said gently. Tomorrow may bring the path. Or it may not. But when it comes, there is no second chance. She turned and walked into the crowd, her coat brushing past strangers, her figure fading into the busy evening. Milan remained on the bench, staring at the space where she had been. His hands were trembling slightly. For the first time, he realized how small his life had been compared to the choice now before him. Stay safe, or step into the unknown. The temptation was heavy on his heart, and he knew sleep would not come easily that night. The next day felt longer than usual for Milan. Every hour at work dragged slowly, every sound seemed dull, and his mind kept returning to the silver key in Rena's hand and her quiet words, when the light train comes, it will not wait. By evening, he hurried to the station again. The air was colder than before, and a thin mist lay across the tracks. The usual noise of people filled the place, but Milan felt a strange heaviness in the air, as if the ground itself was waiting. Rena was there, standing by the clock tower as always. She greeted him with a small nod, but her face was more serious than before. You came, she said softly. Of course, Milan replied. I said I would. Rena looked around carefully, her eyes moving across the crowd. Good. But tonight is not safe. Milan frowned. Why not? She lowered her voice. Others have seen me. They follow now. Not from your people, but from mine. Agents. They do not want the doorway to open here. Milan's heart quickened. Agents. You mean, you're being watched? Rena nodded. Yes. They hide in plain sight. Look around. Milan scanned the station. At first, he only saw ordinary travelers, men with bags, women with children, workers in uniforms. But then he noticed something strange. A tall man in a dark coat stood too still near the ticket counter, not moving even when people brushed past him. Another figure leaned against the wall by the platform, their eyes fixed on Rena, not on the train schedule like everyone else. "They are here," Milan whispered. "Yes," Rena said calmly. "And they will try to stop me. That is why I need your help." Milan turned to her in surprise. "Me? What can I do?" "You are human," Rena answered. "That is your strength. They do not understand humans. They do not expect you to act in ways they cannot see. That is why you can help me move unseen." Milan felt a strange rush inside him. He was no soldier, no hero. He was just a worker who took the train home every evening. Yet Rena was looking at him as though his part mattered more than he could imagine. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. Rena's lips curved into a faint smile. "Stay close. When I move, follow. Blend with the crowd. Do not look at them, or they will know." The whistle of a train cut through the mist, and the platform grew busy with travelers rushing forward. Rena stepped into the flow of people, and Milan followed quickly, keeping his eyes on her coat. They moved among the crowd, letting the motion of others cover them. The tall man near the counter shifted, his gaze following. Another figure near the wall began to walk too. "They are coming," Milan murmured. "Yes," Rena said softly. "But we have time." They walked through the station, not too fast, not too slow. Milan tried to act normal, but his heart beat so hard he thought others might hear it. Rena kept calm, her steps steady, her hand hidden in her coat where the silver key rested. At last, she led him down a narrow stairway to a lower platform that was almost empty. Only a few old lamps lit the place, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. "Why here?" Milan asked. "This place is close to the lines of power," Rena whispered. "Safer for now. They will not come here easily. Too quiet. Too human." Milan nodded, trying to steady his breath. "How long until the doorway opens?" Rena looked at the coin in her hand. Its surface rippled faintly, glowing with soft light. "Soon. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But very soon." Milan sat beside her on the cold bench, glancing nervously at the stairway above. He half expected the agents to appear at any moment. "You really trust me to help you?" he asked. Rena looked at him with calm eyes. "Yes. You already help me. You believe." Her words warmed him despite the chill. For the first time, Milan realized he was no longer just curious. He was part of something larger. But their quiet moment ended quickly. From above, footsteps echoed. Heavy, steady, not like the hurried steps of passengers. Shadows moved across the stairway wall. "They are coming," Rena said, standing swiftly. "We must go back into the crowd. If they find us alone, we cannot escape." Milan stood too, his pulse racing. "This way," he whispered, pointing toward a side passage he knew well from years of waiting in the station. "It connects to the main hall." Rena followed without question. Together, they slipped into the narrow passage just as two figures appeared on the stair above, their eyes scanning the empty platform. Milan led the way, weaving through the hall until they blended once again with the rushing flow of travelers. The noise of voices and footsteps covered them, hiding them in plain sight. Rena leaned close and whispered, "Good. You see? You already know how to move like them. This is why I needed you." Milan nodded, though his heart still pounded. He realized then that he was no longer a bystander. He was in the middle of something dangerous and extraordinary. And as he walked beside Rena, he knew the agents would not stop until they caught her. But he also knew one thing with certainty: he would not let her face them alone. The night was colder than usual. A thin wind moved through the train station, carrying with it the smell of iron and smoke. Milan walked quickly through the gates, his heart beating fast. He had been waiting for this night ever since Rena told him the doorway might open. When he reached the platform, Rena was already there. She stood with her back straight, her coat wrapped close, her hand hidden in her pocket. Her eyes searched the sky above the tracks, as if she could see something invisible to everyone else. "You came," she said softly when she noticed him. "I told you I would," Milan answered. "Is it tonight?" Rena nodded. "Yes. The signal is strong. The path will open soon. But it will be dangerous. The agents will not let us go easily." Milan swallowed. He looked around the station. People were busy as always, waiting for trains, carrying bags, talking with friends. But hidden among them, he could sense watchers. A man reading a newspaper without turning the page. A woman standing too still near the clock tower. Their eyes were not on trains. They were on Rena. "What if they reach us first?" Milan asked. Rena shook her head. "We must be faster. When the light train comes, we step at once. Hesitation is death for the path. Do you understand?" Milan nodded slowly. His whole body trembled, but he forced himself to stand firm. Suddenly, the coin in Rena's hand began to glow. Faint at first, then brighter, like a small star hidden in her palm. She looked at him with calm certainty. "It begins," she whispered. A low hum filled the air. At first Milan thought it was another train approaching, but then he realized it was not from the rails. It was from the air itself. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and a pale light shimmered above the tracks, like a curtain of water standing upright. People around them gasped, pointing to the strange glow. Some thought it was a trick of the lights. Others stepped back in fear. But Milan knew it was the doorway. The light grew, stretching across the platform, turning the metal rails into rivers of shining fire. A shape appeared within the glow. It looked like a train, yet not of steel or wheels. It was made of light, its sides shifting like glass, its windows filled with stars. "The light train," Milan breathed. "Yes," Rena said. Her eyes shone brighter than ever. "It is here." The hum grew louder, shaking the very air. The light train slowed, its door opening in silence. Beyond the door was not a cabin of seats, but a vast tunnel of stars, stretching far into the unknown. Milan's breath caught. It was beautiful. Terrifying. Endless. But before he could move, a shout rang out. The agents had stepped forward. The man with the newspaper dropped it to the ground, his eyes fixed on Rena. The still woman by the clock tower moved quickly toward them. More shadows appeared, slipping through the crowd. "They are here," Milan said urgently. "Then we must go now," Rena replied, her voice steady. She grabbed his hand, her grip firm. "Milan, decide. Do you step with me?" Milan's heart pounded. Behind him was the safe, ordinary world he had always known. Ahead of him was the unknown path, full of danger but also wonder. The temptation burned inside him like fire. He looked at Rena. Her calm eyes held no lies, only trust. In that moment, his fear fell away. Yes, he said firmly. I step with you. Rena's hand tightened around his. Together, they ran toward the glowing doorway. The agents pushed through the crowd, their faces sharp with urgency. But the people around them slowed them down, passengers shouting, children running, bags falling to the floor. For once, the ordinary chaos of humans became a shield. Rena and Milan reached the platform's edge just as the light train gave a final hum. Its doorway shimmered, beginning to close. Now! Rena cried. Without hesitation, Milan leapt with her into the glow. For a heartbeat, the world spun. The noise of the station vanished. The cold air was replaced by warmth. The hard ground was gone. Milan felt as though he was flying, falling, rising all at once. Then his feet touched solid ground again. He opened his eyes. They were no longer in the train station. Around them stretched a tunnel of pure light, stars rushing past like rivers of fire. The walls were not walls, but flowing beams that curved endlessly, carrying them forward faster than any train on Earth. Milan gasped. Where are we? Rena smiled faintly, her hair glowing in the starlight. On the crossing. Between worlds. This is the path my people use. Few humans have ever seen it. Milan looked back, but the doorway was already gone. The train station, the agents, the city, they had vanished behind the curtain of light. Ahead was only the endless journey. For a moment, fear returned to him. Will I ever go back? He asked. Rena's smile faded, replaced by quiet honesty. Perhaps. Perhaps not. But now you carry what no human has carried, the step into the unknown. Milan's chest filled with both dread and wonder. He had chosen. He had crossed. The light train carried them onward, deeper into the stars. The light train carried Milan and Rena deeper into the glowing tunnel. Stars rushed by on both sides, shining like rivers of silver fire. Milan stood by the window, his hands pressed against the clear surface, unable to look away. It feels alive, he whispered. It is alive, Rena answered softly. The path is made from the breath of suns. It knows where to carry us. Her words both amazed and frightened him. This was no ordinary train. It was a bridge between worlds, a secret that humans had never touched before. And yet, here he was, an ordinary man riding beside an alien traveler. Milan turned to her. Where does it end? Rena's eyes grew thoughtful. To my people. To their city beyond the stars. But the question is not where it ends. The question is if you will go that far. Milan frowned. What do you mean? You are human, Rena said gently. This path is not made for you. Your body can walk it, but your spirit may not endure it long. Soon, a choice will come. Stay on the train and leave your world behind, or step out when the train passes close to Earth again. Milan's heart grew heavy. So I can't have both. Rena shook her head. No one can walk two worlds forever. They fell silent. The hum of the train filled the air, deep and steady, like the heartbeat of a giant. Milan stared at the stars, his thoughts storming inside. He remembered his small room back home, his job at the factory, his quiet meals alone. Life had always been simple, predictable, but also empty. Then Rena appeared, and everything changed. She had shown him wonder, danger, and a truth larger than himself. For the first time, he mattered. But now he had to decide. Suddenly, the tunnel of light shifted. The train slowed, and a new doorway shimmered ahead. Through it, Milan saw Earth, its blue oceans, its green lands, its cities glowing like fireflies in the night. He stepped closer, his heart aching. "Home," he whispered. Rena joined him, her face calm but her eyes deep with emotion. "Yes. The path gives you one chance. If you wish to return, you must step now. Once we pass, you will not see this doorway again." Milan looked at her. "And you? You can't stay." Rena shook her head sadly. "I belong to the stars. If I remain, the agents will never stop hunting me. Your world would suffer because of me. I must go on." Her words pierced him. If he left with her, he would lose his world forever. If he stayed, he would lose her. The doorway grew brighter, calling to him. He could almost feel the air of Earth against his skin. Behind him, the endless tunnel pulled forward, waiting to carry them further into the unknown. Rena placed the silver key into his hand. "Whatever you choose, keep this. It is a promise that you stepped once into the path of stars." Milan closed his fingers around it. The metal was warm, as if alive. He looked at Rena. Her face was calm, but he could see sadness in her eyes. She had risked everything to reach this place, and yet she left the choice to him. His throat tightened. "If I stay, will I ever see you again?" Rena's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Perhaps in dreams. Perhaps in stories. But not in this life." The hum of the train deepened. The doorway began to fade. Time was running out. Milan's chest ached with the weight of his decision. He wanted to leap into the unknown, to follow her into the city of stars. But another voice inside reminded him of his duty to his people, to his world. He could not abandon it. Not yet. At last, he made his choice. "I will stay," he said, his voice firm though his heart broke. "My world still needs me. But I will never forget you." Rena's eyes shone with quiet pride. "Then you have chosen well. Not many would turn from wonder to protect their home. This is why humans are strong." The doorway flared one last time. Milan stepped toward it. Before he crossed, he turned back. Rena stood tall, her hair glowing in the starlight, her eyes fixed on him with unspoken words. She lifted her hand in farewell. Milan raised his own. "Thank you," he whispered. Then he stepped through. Light surrounded him. The tunnel vanished. The hum faded. When he opened his eyes, he was back at the train station. The crowd moved as if nothing had happened. The ordinary trains came and went. The agents were gone. In his hand, the silver key still glowed faintly before fading into silence. Milan stood alone, but not empty. For though Rena was gone, he carried her gift, the knowledge that a simple human could step into the unknown and choose not only for himself, but for his world. He looked at the night sky above the station. The stars seemed brighter now, not far and cold, but alive with hidden paths. And deep inside, he knew, one day, humanity would follow.